This is the craziest smartwatch comparison on the internet because I'm going to compare this 1000 rupee smartwatch with this 17,000 rupee smartwatch. So I literally created a clone of myself and made him wear the Boult Drift Plus, whereas I wore the OnePlus Watch 2R. And trust me, after you watch this entire video, your complete concept about smartwatches will change forever because the results are equally crazy. Okay, let's start with the design and build quality. If we talk about the 1000 rupee Boult Drift Plus, you will see the strap is really of cheap quality and there's a horrible smell this strap has, and it's also quite difficult to wear them. The best part is, well, you can actually click and open the strap if you want to replace it with third-party straps. So that is the first thing I would like to do with this watch. But unfortunately, I don't have third-party straps as of now, so I had to use with these. Now, if you talk about the straps of the OnePlus Watch 2R, they're of high quality. It's soft, it does not have any repulsive smell, and it does really feel good when I wear it. It's very, very comfortable. What I think Boult has done here is some necessary cost cutting so that they can keep their price around 1000 rupees, while at the same time providing a fully functional watch. But how accurate the features are, we can only decide after testing. Okay, let's again go back to design. The Boult Drift Plus has a very nice matte finish which makes it look interesting, but it's not made out of metal, it's completely plastic. It has a very large screen of 1.85 inch and it is rectangular, whereas on the other hand you get the OnePlus Watch 2R, which has this cold to touch aluminium body. Looks very beautiful and is very premium to hold. On the back side of the Watch 2R, you get 4 pins for charging. The main advantage is, well, the charging base of OnePlus is actually a bit larger, so it snaps and there's little to no chance of displacing the watch such that it stops charging. And also, in the Boult watch, you get actually 2 pins which perform the same function of charging. But the design is in the main part. So let's head over to the display. You get a 1.85 inch HD display with a brightness of up to 500 nits, which makes it very usable outdoors. What surprised me was the snappiness of the display. It's not just slightly smoother than most of the smartwatches at this price point, but has a surprisingly minimal amount of mistouches. Scrolling and all does look a bit weird because of the refresh rate, but you won't accidentally keep clicking random apps on the watch. Mistouches are there, but it's surprisingly minimal. The Watch 2R, on the other hand, has an AMOLED display of the size of 1.43 inches, with options for always-on display. It has a default maximum brightness of 600 nits, with high brightness mode up to 1000 nits. So it's very bright. The display is smooth, 60Hz, and it feels very snappy. There are huge bezels at the sides though, but they are designed to add that vintage flair. I don't mind them at all. You might think the Boult one has a much larger screen size, but honestly, the Watch 2R doesn't feel small in comparison, since it has a circular display. Many complain that it is easier to view stuff on a rectangular screen than on a circular screen, but there isn't much of a difference since the software on OnePlus is tuned to work on circular screens. OnePlus would win this round because of the obvious benefits, but Boult isn't far enough with respect to the price. Okay, now let's compare the watches in terms of health tracking features. And I've actually worn both the watches, so let us see what the reading comes out to be. Here we have the OnePlus Watch 2R. Let's open the app for heart rate. And here we have the one for Boult. Okay, Boult is taking a bit of time to measure. And as you can see, the results are pretty close. OnePlus is showing a more stable result, whereas Boult is refreshing the result a lot. And I also did a stress monitoring with both the watches side by side, and the Boult one took a lot of time to show the results, and both the results were really close to each other. The same goes for the blood oxygen level, and Boult takes a lot of time to show the result, whereas the OnePlus Watch does it faster and the results are again very similar. Which is surprising because one watch costs 17 times more than the other watch. But here comes the catch. When you place this watch on a flat surface and then you start the monitoring, it actually shows you data. The OnePlus Watch, on the other hand, has this shape which doesn't really allow you to place it flat on a surface and start the measuring, but that is until the surface isn't flat. So this is a pillow and I'm going to try placing the OnePlus Watch on this and measure the stuff. But before that, let's do the testing with Boult. Okay, Boult Drift Plus shows heart rate data for the pillow, and it doesn't stop there but continuously increase the BPM over time. The pillow apparently also has blood, and not just blood but 98% oxygenated blood. The pillow, however, lives a very stress-free life. He's always chilling and relaxed. The Watch 2R tries to record heartbeat but then mentions after some time that the readings are inaccurate, so the measurement has failed. The same goes for the blood oxygen level. But this means the Watch 2R is getting readings but is terming those as unreliable or inaccurate intelligently. However, the Watch 2R shows a normal stress level for the pillow. So it turns out that basically you have to try harder if you want to trick the OnePlus Watch 2R into believing you are wearing it, whereas it's quite easy to trick this watch that in order to make it believe that you're wearing it. Although the OnePlus Watch 2R actually has a limit up to which it will take the results or reject them. So for that reason, it took the reading, and at the same time the readings were probably very inaccurate. So that's why it did not accept them. But if you try really hard, there were certain times you could actually get a reading on this watch too. In order to get a better understanding of how accurate they are, I actually did a bit of test myself. I took both the watches outside and did several laps of walking. Each lap of these walks were of 100 steps, and look how the calculation varies in both the watches. The middle one, that is the 100 step, is my own counting, and that is completely accurate. And if you compare it with the Boult Drift Plus, you will notice that it stays very close to the accurate counting for most of the time. I don't know what happened in lap 5 because it is super inaccurate in Boult Drift Plus, and the OnePlus one also shows quite an inaccuracy. Might be because I walked indoor, which caused a bit of a trouble in registering the steps. Might be that is the reason. But if you focus on the other points, you will notice that the OnePlus Watch 2R consistently records data which is much higher than the actual data. And it's not just here, but you can actually trick the OnePlus Watch 2R in order to record data even when you are like traveling. Movement of your hand can be registered as steps by OnePlus, which is very weird because of the price difference between them. And this behavior could be expected in the Boult Drift Plus, but that is not the case. Now, if you see the accuracy level of the step counter in both the watches, you will notice that the Boult Drift Plus is actually more accurate than the OnePlus Watch 2R. And this is after considering even the last record, which I think is inaccurate in both. It's 95.2% for Boult Drift Plus and it's 92.8% for the OnePlus Watch 2R. If you compare the calorie counter for both of them, it was recorded the same time I recorded the steps for these. Now if you notice lap 1, 2 and 3 in Boult Drift Plus, it's around 6 and 5 in both of them, which is okay and expected because you know, I walked 100 steps at the same place and at a similar pace each time, which would lead to a similar amount of calorie loss, that is 6, 5 and 5. But if you compare that with the OnePlus Watch 2R, it was 5 in lap 1 and lap 2, whereas it reduced to 3 in lap 3. I don't know how accurate these readings are, but comparing them with each other is also quite interesting because of how close the results are. Except for lap 3, there's a bit of a difference over there. But other than that, if you see, both the watches' readings are surprisingly similar. Okay, so the results are kind of mixed. So sometimes this one is very accurate, sometimes this one is close to accurate, not always super accurate, and sometimes this doesn't even record your steps, whereas this one is very easy to trick to record your steps. So subtle movement of your hands and all can be recorded by this one and mistaken as steps. So the OnePlus Watch 2R will show you wrong recordings such that the steps are much higher than it is actually, whereas the Boult Watch, which is a lot cheaper option, will show you mostly accurate recordings, but sometimes it won't record certain steps. Honestly, at this point I'm feeling bad because I bought this watch myself and it costed 17 times more than this watch, and this watch my dad bought. And I hate how he continuously mentions that his watch can do blood pressure monitoring and my watch doesn't have that feature. And it's true, there are certain basic features which aren't there on the OnePlus Watch 2R. You don't get ECG, blood pressure, which even the Samsung Galaxy 4, which was launched back in 2021, and it's available at the price of around 8 to 9,000 rupees, the cheapest wearer's Android smartwatch you can get, and it still would be software supported for another year. Okay, since we are already talking about features, let's head over to the next section of the video, that is features. Okay, now don't tell me you have no idea who is going to win this round, because OnePlus is powered by Wear OS, which means you get access to the entire gallery of Android Wear OS apps in the Google Play Store. There's a web browser which you can download and surf the entire web and continue it obviously on your phone. Download WhatsApp, log in, reply to messages, reply with voice messages, open images sent in WhatsApp, or even listen to voice messages. Then there's Spotify, third-party watch faces, and a lot more. Both the watches support Bluetooth calling, which is great, but just because of having Wear OS, which gives you access to these ton of apps, and how it is well optimized for the Android system, such that you can literally reply to anything. So it doesn't matter whether it is Telegram, Instagram, whenever you get a message, you can directly reply it from within the watch, and you get the entire keyboard for the reply. It's not like those pre-written replies or quick replies, although they are also present. So yes, OnePlus is the clear winner over here. But one weird thing which I noticed with both the smartwatches, starting with the Boult one, is there are certain features which are disabled, like continuous heart rate monitoring, continuous stress monitoring. I have to actually access them from the official app on the phone and enable them from there. At first I thought these features are not even present, so it's a bit weird. For OnePlus, there are certain features which are turned off because they reduce the battery life drastically. So for sleep monitoring, there's breathing problem assessment which can be turned off. It's actually turned off by default. You have to turn it on if you want it. And even other features which are like not so important, you don't need them turned on all the time. But you do get continuous heart rate monitoring and stress monitoring turned on by default. Both the watches have a decent number of workout options, and if you ever run out of workout options on the OnePlus, you can actually create your own workout. Okay, now let's talk about the battery, and this is a very interesting part because the OnePlus Watch 2R actually has two different operating systems powered by two different chips. So there is the usual Wear OS by Android. That is when the Snapdragon W5 kicks in. So you can browse the Play Store, install third-party apps, watch faces, and basically get access to the entire Google Play Store for Wear OS devices and use them natively on this watch. And the second operating system is RTOS, which is powered by a secondary chip, which is, I don't remember what is the name, BES 2700 if I'm not wrong. Now the same chip along with RTOS is actually responsible for doing all the low powered stuff, which includes doing most of the health tracking features. Now the main advantage is, even if you switch over to the power saving mode, you can actually use most of the health tracking features of the watch. The main things that you can't use are the Wear OS features like accessing and running apps installed from the Play Store, so that is gone. It places this watch between two different extremes. On one side we have the cheap Bluetooth smartwatches which run their own custom version of operating systems, and the other side we have the very pricey Wear OS devices. So there's the Galaxy Watch 7, the Pixel Watch, and more. But the main problem with these Wear OS devices is the battery life is not good enough. And the main problem with these, that is the cheaper Bluetooth smartwatches, you can see how laggy the user interface is. The Watch 2R has this major advantage because of using two different operating systems as well as two different chips. So it optimizes accordingly, and this Wear OS, mostly Wear OS powered smartwatch can last for almost 3 days, which is very impressive for a Wear OS powered smartwatch. On the other hand, we have this one, which is basically a Bluetooth accessory. All of these smartwatches have this advantage of having very good battery life, so you can expect it to last for 7 to 8 days. And today is the first time I actually charged both of these smartwatches together. The main advantage of OnePlus again is because it has fast charging. So I connected my 65-watt charger to this smartwatch. I don't really know what rating this smartwatch supports. I'll put on the screen, and I connected both of them together at the same time, and when I came back upstairs, this watch was already sitting at 100% and it was cool, so the charging had stopped quite some time back. whereas the Boult smartwatch was still charging and it didn't even reach 90 plus. Now the battery life depends on the hardware, which is the battery itself, and again the chipset which is inside these watches, and as well as the software, because the software is the one who decides how much of the battery to use and how much to save. One impressive thing that I noticed in the OnePlus Watch 2R is whenever I go to sleep, it automatically locks itself to a sleep mode, which conserves the battery of the watch and also prevents mistouches at the same time. So there's zero possibility that you will trigger something while using this watch when you're asleep. The Boult Drift Plus, however, does not have this feature. Okay, so it's time for the final verdict. And honestly, what I thought before testing the two smartwatches is, well, I guess the Boult Drift Plus will have very inaccurate health readings and the OnePlus Watch 2R will give very accurate health readings, and this will be the difference along with the obvious features of the wearer's operating system, and that not being available over here. You can't use third-party softwares, WhatsApp and all, but that was the only thing different in both the watches, which actually surprised me. And even if you pay 18,000 or 17,000 rupees for a smartwatch like from here, from OnePlus, you actually don't get very accurate health features. So what you're paying for is mostly performance and software improvement. So your watch does not look cheap, sluggish, it just feels fast and does the job. So of course, if you have the budget, it's definitely better than this watch. But if you think it will provide you better and more accurate health informations, well, that is a bit doubtful. Okay, so that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.